Hello, everyone. Hello. So excited to be hosting the space today, NFT History, Innovation, and Creativity. Just give us a few seconds to add our speakers. Hi, Stella. Hi, Coborn.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Hey, Judy. Hi,
Hello,
Fanny.
everyone. It's so good to see you all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning. Good morning and good evening almost in Europe.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Eleonora. Do we have everyone now, or we're still waiting someone else to join with us today?
I know Primavera was listed.
I think Beeple's supposed to drop in pretty soon, so.
Good one, Rob.
Who invited him? Anyway, but we can get started if Prima shows up. I'm sure,
Yeah, we
we
can
will
start
welcome.
already. Shall we? Yeah, we can start already while wait another few minutes. Anyway, it's so excited to be here today. Together with Historic NFT Festival, which is happening next week in Barcelona. We have some wonderful speakers, Judy Mann, Eleonora, Coborn, Stella, Nina, Fanny, and Robness, and hopefully Primavera. So while we are waiting people to join us, I just wanted to give everyone some context of this conversation from my perspective, of course, but our speakers are welcome to jump in anytime. So we have this very unique opportunity today to go back in time, travel back to the times when NFTs are not even called NFTs yet. So, of course, we're not doing an official history class here. Funny enough, when we're talking about history, it's almost we're talking about like a few years ago at most. So I'm curious, like I know in the past when we did the Twitter spaces, we have lots of people drop in. I'm really curious who's gonna be tuning in today, hopefully people. But it'll be also absolutely wonderful to have people who are actually new to the NFT and crypto art space with us. I hope this conversation will give you a glimpse into the early days of NFTs. We all know that the idea of minting art on blockchain or bringing together art and technology has really been a niche, or you can say a fringe idea, until we saw like the market took off, the record breaking sales in 2020. So before that, it was really like a small group of people, maybe more precisely, some small group of friends who were passionate about the idea. And through some different opportunities, conferences got together, talked, and exchanged ideas and had fun together. So I think this is such a special occasion. We have everyone here today to share this experience with the broader audience at ArtNet. I just wanted to quote something that I read an interview from Judy some time ago. And I mean, you can correct me later, but I'm quoting here that you said it was so early that at that time you could basically reach out to the biggest experts in blockchain art at the time, and they would not only answer immediately, but compare notes and learn from each other because everything was new. So that was such a different time, and now here we are at a time that shouldn't be so unfamiliar for those who have been in crypto long enough. This feeling like taking a roller coaster ride. NFT went from, hey, what is NFT, to oh my God, this is the future of technology and they are great investments. And now like people say we see NFTs are dead, NFTs are beanie babies. I'm referencing an article on ArtNet, apparently. So I guess I want to go with the conversation today is to have these people, I could probably say, who fell in love with blockchain, who fell in love with art on the blockchain long before anyone else, to talk about why and how the story happened. And I believe these stories should be interesting to everyone, either you love or hate NFT at this moment. So I'm going to let our speakers take over now. Judy, the co-founder of Historic NFT Festival and Power Data, one of the earliest NFT projects out there. And I know you are an incredibly great speaker. We were on the same panel, so it'll be fun if we start from here and everyone can just share with us a little bit about the stories from the early days and the early days of crypto art, of course, a personal encounter and just see how it goes.
Thank you so much, Yajin, for hosting us. I think that anytime and anyone that is bringing together the world of traditional art and our brave new world frontier of crypto art and NFTs is doing the Lord's work. And so I really thank you for hosting all of us. I would say that two things to kind of get us started and respond to what you were mentioning. It wasn't really a group of friends that got together. I think that we became friends because we didn't know, it was a small group of people who didn't really know each other, but because we had the same passion and interest and curiosity for this new technology and how it would impact artists and art in general. As my quote is true, that like there were very few people I'm talking about 2017, which is when Dada, which is our platform, a place where people speak to each other through digital drawings that they make on our platform. We started looking into blockchain. We thought that would be the path for us. And so like you start, well, who else is doing this? And then we got names like John Watkinson and Matt Hall from the CryptoPunks, and we call them and they immediately answered the phone and immediately started helping us. Or Joe Looney, who is the creator of the Rare Pepe wallet, found a bunch of us who were doing this stuff in 2017 and even a little bit earlier, and somehow kickstarted what became the Rare Art Festival, the first Rare Art Festival in January of 2018. So it was that small and it was that concentrated, and but the friendship and the community were actually born out of our mutual exploration of this space.
Yeah, that was so interesting. So in the beginning, it was actually called Rare Art, like before people started calling it NFT. And where did that name came from?
To be honest, we didn't know what to call anything. And at the beginning, no one really, NFTs came later because at the time, they were all fungible tokens. They were ERC20s, where those of us, we were working in Ethereum because Rare Pepes were working with Bitcoin on Counterparty. But the people who were like the CryptoPunks, Dada, CryptoKitties were working on Ethereum. I think before CryptoKitties, it was ERC20s, which were fungible tokens. And I don't want to get super technical because I am not a technical person. So NFTs was a name that came later with the 721 non-fungible, which means that you cannot divide it. Fungible is something that you can fractionalize, like a dollars and cents. Non-fungible means that you cannot really divide it. So rare art, I think, was called because this thing about you being able to actually transact digital assets for the first time, that any digital content, whether art or music or any digital content, could actually become an asset that had value, that made it rare because
And
scarcity
also,
was important. Mm-hmm.
let me just jump in right here. Don't you remember that Rare Art Labs, which is now defunct, was it was the first art platform for crypto art, as far as I know. Rare Art Labs was before, like, Super Rare, for example.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and maybe that had something to do with that term. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, it's true. I mean, we called it rare art. I really like that. I still think it sounds better than NFTs. We called it blockchain art. We called it crypto art. And so NFTs just was something that happened later as they took off, and more in the ways of like PFPs and stuff like that.
Oh, hello. I just want to jump in quickly just for accuracy. I think the rare comes from rare peppers. I'm pretty sure Joe Looney has said that that's one of the biggest contributions of rare peppers to the space, and it comes from the provable rare. We used to say these are provable rare assets, and rare art fest was called like that because of this, and rare labs came after this whole thing.
You should introduce yourself so people know who
I'm
is
the
speaking.
historic age NFT. I'm just here to for dates and things like that.
That's Bea, the founder of Dada. Everyone speaking from Barcelona.
So what attract you, Judy, from the very beginning? Maybe a little bit background of what you did back then, and what attract you to start exploring the idea of doing power data and got down the rabbit hole?
Well, briefly, Dada is, as I said, it's a collaborative art platform, Dada.art, where people can draw. They draw on our digital canvas. You make a drawing, and somebody replies to you with another drawing, and people create spontaneous visual conversations. So we have like this amazing place for collaborative art, and we started in 2014. And at the time, before blockchain, it was hard to find a way to make this sustainable. And we always, our mission was always to make art a sustainable occupation for artists. So we had tried different things that were not exciting nor scalable. And before blockchain, I think it's hard to maybe understand that now that we see that you can actually collect digital things, it seems like super normal for some people. But before, you couldn't do it, because anything that you have on the internet, you can make 500,000 copies and disseminate them, and they have they have no monetary value whatsoever. So we felt, when we started getting into the blockchain rabbit hole, not only that it would be a way to make our platform sustainable in the long run, but also that the blockchain has this decentralized character where, it's a complex technology, but it is very different from like a centralized thing that basically orders everyone around. It would be a great it would be a good fit for our platform and our community, because also it's peer-to-peer. Because we were, once that we got into the blockchain and we issued our first collection of NFTs, the Creeps and Weirdos, in 2017, we also were the first ones to add royalties to the smart contracts, meaning that for secondary markets, meaning that if an artist, something got sold on for the second time, the artist would get royalties, which is quite an innovation. And so all of that, the fact that you could do it immediately, that the fact that it goes wallet to wallet, and a collector can collect art pretty immediately, an artist can be paid pretty immediately. All of those things were the super exciting, and as I think they were for all the other people who were experimenting at the time, if that makes sense.
I saw Primavera join us. Hi, Primavera. So nice to have you. I wanted to tap.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So I wanted to tap Coborn now, because I think his story is also super interesting. It's probably, we could say, from the other side, that you came from a finance background and you got into NFTs also around the same time. So would you like to, I know everyone is so familiar with you, but if you wanted to introduce yourself a little bit and then tell us about your story.
Well, I'll say with the people up here, I definitely have the least interesting story. But 2017, I was tinkering like like most, I was involved in CryptoKitties, original adopter of Mooncats. I was collecting on additional, and 5 years later, I recently found the seed phrase to that account. So I was really excited to go back and kind of rediscover all of those works that I had collected. But and other experiments, certainly in provenance, there was like the Maecenas token, there was which was the art token, there was Codex protocol, I recall watching. But I think I would rather, frankly, just let other people talk because their story is going to be much more interesting than mine.
Yeah. So we have Primavera just joining us. She's a legal scholar, an artist. Also, she's the author of the book Blockchain and the Law, published by Harvard University Press. So Primavera, we would love to hear your story from the early days.
So I don't know when the early days start, but I basically I'm institutionally a legal scholar, and I've been working on the legal challenges of digital technology, in particular on copyright, and more generally on the law. And then, of course, when Ethereum came about, I could not resist but investigate the legal issue raised by smart contract, decentralized autonomous organization, and so forth. And on the side, on the institutional level, I'm also an artist, and I've been constantly using art as a way of challenging and illustrating my research. And so back in 2014, when I decided to focus most of my research on Ethereum and DAOs, then I also started making blockchain-based life forms as a way of illustrating what a DAO looks like in the physical world. How can you interact with it, and of course, like, what are the legal challenges raised by it? This is what has given rise to the Plantoid project, which was not, and I will say is still not, anything to do with an NFT type of blockchain artwork, but rather it's like a physical integration between mechanical sculptures and blockchain-based mechanisms for reproduction. And of course, over the years, the Plantoid has evolved, reproducing itself by hiring artists through the funds that it collects, and now there is obviously also the new generation of the Plantoid, which uses NFT as of its seeds in order to further facilitate its reproduction. But essentially, all my work since then has been looking at what are the legal questions surrounding copyright, blockchain, law, etc., and trying to instantiate all those legal challenges through my artistic practice into the real world, so that we actually have something to look at as lawyers when we're trying to analyze those things, and it doesn't feel so much like science fiction anymore.
Thank you, Primavera. Should we just go around and have our speakers introduce themselves and also we just see how the conversation goes?
Yes.
Go for
So
it,
go
Stella.
for it, Stella.
All right,
Or
I'll start.
Fanny.
Let's get the ball rolling. I want so I'm Fanny Lakubai. I'm helping organize the HNFT Fest from more the timeline perspective, and it's an effort we haven't mentioned yet, but that is very linked to what we're doing today, like kind of going back in time, not just for the sake of saying like, oh, I went there, I did this, I did that, but really, and you mentioned it, like this is like a very short period of time to look back at, but however it's a very interesting moment right now in time to look back, to remember like the early experiment, like why it was called rare art, like what platforms, like what experiments were done, and really prepare the future better, and I think this is where the idea was kind of to put all the people that were part of these early days, but with other curious people. It doesn't mean that like, oh, if you were not there in 2017, that's it, you're done. Like, like move on, like nothing to see. I think it's a really important time to look at these early days, also because they were the experimentation years, and oftentimes we talk about these years, and we realize that a lot of what is currently being done was already done before, and probably way too early. But there's a lot of projects that probably a lot of people haven't heard of, like Sand and Additional, and which was a mobile first like NFT marketplace, and so on and so forth. So I think for me this is like very interesting, and you did it right with like all the stories, like everybody has a different story, and even if we attended the exact same events, like Judy and I in 2018, we could finish each other's sentences in panels, because we were always the same, like weird art and blockchain people talking about that, but we have a different perspective. And I think using all of our biases, all our stories, and really like looking back at works that has been done already on NFT timelines. I mean, there are amazing work being done by White Rabbit, Leonidas, like Martin Lucas Ostashevsky, and taking these timelines and looking at it from a relationship perspective, and building kind of a landscape of all the experiments that happened, to me is fascinating, and not reproduce, rewrite history or write the history with a capital H, like that's absolutely not interesting. And there's a big art component, and I'm sure Eleonora can talk more about that part much better than I can.
Yeah, thank you, Fanny. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us and for talking about the Age NFT Fest. And I am Eleonora. I am a crypto art curator. And following with what Fanny was saying, it's very interesting to have in our hands a new way to write history. I think, and obviously we have the privilege of being able to use a tool that, in the past, when history used to be, I don't know, like Eurocentric, or, everyone writing history from their very own perspective, to start from a very good base, which is the blockchain. So let's say with validation and transparency, and timestamp. So it's perfect to write history. But then finally, what Fanny was saying, what's very interesting, besides the fact of having like these facts very much verified, is that there are events or even projects or like platforms, NFTs even, where the same people lived the same things at the same time, but that the perspective and the reaction and the feelings are so different. And so what we try to do also from the more artistic perspective is to like to give this flavor of to history of having many layers. We call it the the neural network of the NFT and crypto art space, because there's so many stories and points of conjunction and like connections, really meetings, encounters, exchange of ideas and visions behind everything that finally made it on chain. And so for the art part, we cover time frame which goes from 2011 until 2019 included. But then we try to make a common effort of not only talking about the projects, the people, creators, and artists, coders who really made it into be successful for whatever that means, usually corresponds to be successful in the market. But really trying to focus also to what is we call invisible, to make the invisible visible. There are so many other ideas and creators who contributed so much to even the projects that we saw it making it. For instance, like we were having epiphanies even ourselves when we decided to adopt this very transparent and open and public way of doing research. So we did it on Twitter Space, like we're doing today, instead of having private meetings. So we invited the community, contributors, all the speakers, everyone meeting together on Twitter Space and going through specific years. And so yes, and through this, the result is this timeline where everyone is also like presenting projects and art that probably we didn't know about. And I was saying we were having epiphanies because then you realize when you're doing these Twitter spaces that not only there are so many things that we weren't aware of, but especially even those we were very aware of, you understand, oh, okay, so the rare Pepe exists because Spells of Genesis existed. And then Spells of Genesis was the first time where collectors started to collect digital cards for the sake of collecting. It was not a game anymore. And that's how we got to the rare Pepe. So like being able to see all this immense infrastructure that we weren't even aware of, even ourselves, maybe we influence other things. It's just, I think that's what we are doing. We're trying to rebuild this neural network of connections, of course, through art as well.
Can I jump in next?
Go for it.
Okay. So that's really interesting to talk about all the experiments, because definitely my project fits into the experimental area, and which was on a different blockchain that people may not know about because they, weren't there. Just a little background. I was a science and tech writer for Interesting Engineering when I found the blockchain by doing research in the middle of the night in 2016. I'll just never forget about it. I found Steemit, and Steemit was a social media experiment where votes equal money. And because I was an early adopter of Steemit, I earned a lot of money very quickly in crypto, and it was life changing because I was a struggling artist and writer for 20 years. So I'd never been able to answer the question of how do I monetize my creativity? Because I do lots of creative things, not only art, but writing and videos and all of these things. So when I found Steemit, which was, in essence, it was like a large DAO where votes equal the ability to make money. So basically, if you had an article that you wrote and you spent all this time researching and it was something that people wanted to read, the more people that voted for you, the more crypto you could earn. So what I did was in 2017, with my money that I'd earned on Steemit, I rolled that into a staked account, which was called Slothacorn. And what I wanted to do was to create a community of artists who are trying to understand the crypto economy. And my community was like, we helped fund crypto artists. We helped educate them about super rare crypto kitties, rare Pepe, all the experiments that were happening at once. It was a hub where people could learn about different things and potentially create their own project, which we would try to help get funds for. Additionally, we paid out crypto to artists who were just, posting their art on Steemit, which was a blockchain in and of itself as well. So this is a different system. It's like proto NFTs because it wasn't an ownership model. It was a group oriented system, much the way that DAOs work. And my group was also Creative Commons because I realized the future would probably be more Creative Commons alignment rather than a copyright and this is mine. I thought it was going to be more like the way that Bitcoin worked, which was open source. Bitcoin gave rise to millions of other coins or thousands and thousands of other coins because of its nature of being open source. So I thought the future is going to be more of like sharing and I had a lot of ideals that were crushed later, but I had the original thinking, which was we're going to be community based, sharing, Creative Commons, and we're going to be richer for that. We're going to be culturally more in tune with each other, and that was the original idea that I had. I ran out of funding because I'm not a money person really. I'd never sought any outside funding, but the experiment also led to things like being I was invited to go to the decentralized art show in South by Southwest in 2018. And so I brought all the artists' work with me, and we had a decentralized art show where this is people didn't really have a lot of NFTs. So what we did was we embedded our crypto wallets, like Bitcoin, whatever coin that you like. You put a QR code on your painting, and then the buyer could then just scan that code and pay you in Bitcoin and buy your painting. So there were so many experiments happening before people just bought NFTs, I just wanted to let everyone know that the experimentation was massive back then. I mean, there weren't that many people doing it, but there were just so many varieties of new things people were trying because it was an idealistic time full of dreamers, visionaries, and people who wanted to answer this question: how do we turn creativity into something we can live on and be, sharing? Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Anybody else want to go, or should I just roll?
Roll.
All right. Okay. To everybody that's down there that doesn't know who the hell I am, I go by the name of Rob Ness, Los Angeles-based artist. Pretty much failed artist until I got lucky and struck gold, pretty much. But I'm gonna just kind of illustrate what was going on in like 2016 with me. In just like real simplistic terms, I was in this band rehearsal studio. I was trying to be in a bunch of bands. I was trying to write, do painting, had a bunch of stuff in there, and it was just like, where the heck am I going with my life, pretty much, and on the side, I was basically known as the Bitcoin guy. So all of the musicians and artists that were around in that building, they knew I was the guy, and that basically the crazy guy that was always talking about this currency, this internet currency stuff. But on the side of things, when band practices were done, or I was done painting or doing whatever, I would always be, looking up this stuff and just researching. So like what Stella Bell was talking about with all these altcoins, there was a lot of experimentation going on. So that's when I kind of discovered what Counterparty was. And Counterparty is basically like the first token network on Bitcoin. So you can actually make NFTs on Bitcoin. You still can do that to this day. So when I found that, I was really, really intrigued. Like Eleonora was talking about Spells of Genesis, I actually was beta testing that game. That was my first introduction to like art on top of a token. That was the first time it ever happened to me. But when I found the Rare Pepe thing, that's when I knew that it's normal civilians were taking control of the network and making their own assets and stuff. And that's when I realized, like, the big aha moment was just normal people are actually like making their own assets and trying to append a photo on top of it or a JPEG or whatever. And after that point, I just kind of knew it was like, this is freaking rad. I'm gonna jump in this. And I found, Joe Looney and the rest of the guys. We found a Telegram group, and from that point on, we just started trading back and forth, and it just got real to like a feverish pitch. And that was basically my first, interaction with all this stuff. But, it was back then, it was so many, hurdles to go over. Like most of the time it was, how are we going to like even look at the JPEG? So we had the Rare Pepe directory site to actually view the quote unquote NFTs. You know what I mean? But actually, Joe Looney was probably going to kill me for saying that. So Rare Pepes, but so half the time was just like development and making a wallet on your phone, for instance. Like Koji Higashi was one of the first guys to make an app where you can actually like look at your asset on there and trade it as well, which made trading like real like more simple.
He's speaking at the festival, by the way.
He's going to be there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That's going to be amazing. So this is going to be a great meeting of the minds. But yeah, so all that stuff was going on. And then to the point where, I mean, it was during the Bitcoin bear market too. So we were already going downhill while we're making all this stuff like kind of happen. And I'm not gonna lie, like I got pretty lucky, and I sold one of my assets for like 10,000, right? So I took that money, and I just, I've never traveled in my life. I thought I was gonna be, stuck in LA forever. Never had a thought in my mind I'll be going to Japan or Europe, whatever. And I just took that money and I rolled. And I spent, good 2 years just living my life. And when I got back, that's when I found, Known Origin and Super Rare. And Rare Art was the first one that I signed up to. Of course, all my artwork got lost on there. So, but from that point on, I was able to make more personal work. So it wasn't just green frogs anymore. I could actually like go off and do other topics and whatever I wanted to express. So from that point, I met a whole new cast of characters. Got the Coldies, the X Copies, Miss Al Simpsons, you name it, Gary Cartledge's, all that, and then, I started kind of getting into a little trouble here and there. I started making maybe too much artwork or, basically breaking every rule. Just total caveman, just bumping into everything. And basically, I'm kind of known for this thing called trash art. So it's like a meme slash like crypto art movement. But the reason why that kind of took place was because I was on Super Rare. I made a trash can that they thought I broke copyright, and the trash can was removed. It's called the 64-gallon toter. And then after that, it was basically 2 years of like a big art debate on Twitter. And from that point on, a bunch of trash cans. I just started seeing trash cans getting remixed and putting up like a total meme, like almost like a new Pepe in a sense. And actually, it was kind of fun though because a whole new cast of characters like Stella Bell, like his family, like anybody that was part doing the trash art stuff at the time, I consider all family. So it turned into this kind of wild meme for 2 years, and actually. I'm going to put a bow tie on this. Vincent Van Doe commandeered the ArtNet account, and I guess basically was like, what are your most favorite pieces, and he put the 64-gallon toter on there. And I'm not sure if that was a catalyst or whatever, but Super Rare, I think, just was like, we got to put this thing back on, and it was like right before Christmas, so they reinstated the piece, and then they put me back on, which was like awesome, and basically just like a lot of water under the bridge, but to kind of put everything back in perspective, a lot of us just didn't, we're just learning, platforms and artists, like all of us were just trying things. Sometimes we'd butt heads. I'd butt heads with whales from time to time as well. But no, it was a really great time. And it's just, it was special just because, everybody was just trying new things, and where everybody's very excited, and even like watching the collectors come in. I see like Token Angels is down there. We got to see a bunch of like whole new cast of characters come in, and basically just turned into one big family, and one big decentralized family. I mean, half the time it was, everyone's like, when are you going to come to these shows, Robness? When are you going to show up and actually, so, it's just kind of wild to just see all this kind of take place. Cause I kind of consider it like a Motown of sorts, but it's just spread globally, it's not like a tribalistic thing, like where, everybody knew each other down the block, and, like, oh, let's go pick up a singer or an artist down the street and bring them in. It was the fact that like all of us had like kind of like one hive mind around the world, and like we all became good friends, like Judy Mam was saying, like yeah, it's been a really, really special time. So thank you, ArtNet and Jayan, for bringing me up here, and yeah.
I think if I can add something, Robness, to what you just said, I think this is really what made us all stay for all these years is kind of like the richness of the people you meet. And still now people are joining the space, and I know we talk so much about community, which became a meme, another meme, but it's really family, right? Like we were all like, in very different industries. You mentioned like Colborne, like coming from finance, like I came, well, actually from ArtNet, and Christie's, and, like Judy from advertising, Primavera from the law sector, etc. And this is like where it's amazing how like all these like skills are now put towards experiments and moving the needle forward for artists and many other things. But in our case, like it's very focused on new sustainable models for like the artistic community, and it's fascinating to watch and be part of it, to be honest.
And then we have also people like Nina Roars, who is here, and we just met her, but like Nina, I'll let you introduce yourself. But it turns out that she just did this spectacular exhibition at the Kunsthalle in Zurich called "Do Your Own Research" about NFTs, and she's been actually researching the field for a long time. So we also kind of get to meet new friends that have been there from before that we didn't know.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Judy. Thanks for introducing me. Hi, everybody. I'm Nina. I'm based in Switzerland, Zurich mostly. And I somehow joined the whole thing more like from the art markets perspective in a certain way. I started my own gallery, Röers and Birch, in 2016, focusing on art in the digital age. And by the time I was really intrigued by this digitalization and what it means for society, and the ways artists might help all of us kind of to also explain what's going on to everybody in our daily lives through their art. And you're mainly working with artists who work about digitalization, but also often with digital means. And of course, when you do that, you come across a lot of media, starting from networks like early net art to augmented reality, virtual reality, surveillance systems, artificial intelligence. And then all of a sudden, the blockchain came up and NFTs, and I had people coming to my gallery and asking me why I wouldn't do anything with that around that new media. And in the beginning, it took me a while really to grasp it. And I think that was like 2017, 2018. And then I had one artist, Jonas Lund, who I did a project with, or who was involved in one of our group shows. And Jonas very early on tokenized himself or his practice, and he gave me some of his Jonas Lund token. And somehow that was also how I got my first wallet to take care of these tokens or to receive his token. And and then somehow this thing started and intrigued me more and more, and especially the people I met on my journey, and also somehow the intellectual challenge, because you meet so many people with so many great ideas, and a bit different from all of the media that I came across before, which were mostly topics and means of expressions for artists. Blockchain and NFT also dramatically changed the market dynamics. And I think that's a super interesting component, and also made me, in the end, motivated me to stop my commercial gallery business, because somehow I feel that, it's time for new models at least.
Thank you, Nina. I wanted to add that from my talking to different people who have been involved in the space for a long time, or a lot of creators and artists, I really noticed that, like, for the people who were involved since the very early days, it's quite common that I see this kind of idealism, they were very much there for making the art world a better place, and very much about the community. And this is somehow probably not the case when we see the market took off and now everything's become more commercialized. So I wonder, like, this is a question to all the speakers here today, like, what do you think, like, how has the NFT landscape changed? And where are we right now in terms of the history of NFT?
Before we were talking, you and I, Jean, that since you were saying that your audience may not be that familiar with NFTs, and I just wanted to clarify, because we're doing this historic NFT festival, and people are probably thinking, historic what? This thing is like 10 years old. But what is really interesting is that the blockchain art space, or the crypto art space, moves really fast. The digital life moves extremely fast. And so even, the historic fest comprises from 2011, or like the earliest thing that we could find people doing experiments on the blockchain and art experiments on the blockchain, to 2019. And these are considered historic NFTs by the people who care about these collectors, and all of us, because they are the projects and artists and people that kind of started experimenting and got things built and got things done. And what I find amazing is that you're talking only about 10 years. So if you think about the history of art, of legacy art, which is hundreds of years or thousands of years, and then people come and say, oh, historic NFTs, I think we need to kind of qualify that. But the one of the most amazing aspects of this is that there are people in our space that are called NFT archaeologists, that are actually searching for long lost hidden links, or projects that do not exist anymore, or stuff that happened at the very, very beginning. And the reason why we're having this festival is because we believe, Dada believes, that not enough space or attention has been given to understanding how this was created, who created it, why it was created, what were the relationships between the people who really helped move the space forward in many ways. And because of, like, the first thing that happened was that we could prove, the people who were building these things could prove, that blockchain could be usable, that it could be a use case to create digital assets and to transact them. And then marketplaces happen, and marketplaces are designed to sell, and everything was kind of designed to sell to collectors and for people to collect easily and all of that. And there have been places, and there's always been people like Fanny, like Eleonora, but people who have contributed a lot in trying to understand the space, in trying to even create scholarship about it, or research about it. But with the big sales of the last year, all of that kind of gets forgotten. When money comes in, and like people hear about these extraordinary amounts of money being paid for what some people consider JPEGs, right? People don't even know what they're buying. People who come in today and buy a PFP have no clue of where it came from, or what were the influences that made their whatever it is that they're buying, like a lobster or a monkey or whatever it is that they're buying, has like historical precursors that, in my view, are far more interesting and far more rich. And so that's the reason why we're doing that. So I don't know if this answers your question, but I thought it was important to say this, so to put this in a context, so that people understand that these things are truly historic, because when you are at the very beginnings of technology, or of a new technology, if you happen to be there and building things, what you're doing is gonna end up being having historic importance.
But I also think, I mean, without all that, let's say, commercialization and growing attention, and let's say a lot of people who don't really know a lot about the history but are still intrigued, we would also not be here in this call today. I mean, somehow all the things that changed since last year also make a lot of people look in this direction now, and that also provides a lot of opportunities now to tell the story of the space.
Certainly, and I mean, you're a perfect example. The exhibition that you curated in Zurich and that is running right now, I think it's a perfect example of it. But I have to say that there haven't been that many of those. Like it has taken some time. Maybe for us it's forever. For people in the regular world, it's like normal. But for actual art institutions to pay attention in a serious way has taken quite a while.
But I mean, looking at the history of, let's say, digital art or art in the digital age, all of this, somehow started in the 60s, and so far the art world has struggled really to pick up on this development, and somehow it all came through the COVID crisis. And it was always a niche thing. And now within the niche, all of a sudden you have something that's super commercialized and where everybody feels you can make a lot of money. And that makes everybody look into that direction. So it's an interesting combination of things that's going on. And I'm really curious to see how the art world will deal with it going forward. And personally, I hope that we will refocus more on the art and somehow a bit away from, let's say, blockchain and NFT and the technology itself, because I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's something that's being created by artists who are producing art, and NFTs and blockchain are one very interesting technology in a much broader field.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you.
May I say one thing, just real quick? Okay, I'm just gonna go.
Sure.
Yeah, and as far as like what Cheyenne was talking about, as far as like keeping some like the ethos and all of us kind of have a similar kind of outlook on the power of this technology. I think from just from the ground level, I mean, the Bitcoin technology, it still is like amazing. You know what I mean? It's what this thing is capable of. Sometimes, being in the space, you kind of just brush over, like it's just like drinking water or breathing air now. It's, a lot of the things are just kind of normal, but the thing that the just the heart of it that still amazes me is that I could literally just, take my laptop and go to Tibet and make my artwork there. Maybe start an art tribe there, and I would have the same amount of not influence or power, but I would have enough like energy to send it and have the financial energy come back to me and support the community that's around there. So like my most like, because I've been dealing with this like ever since like we've had the watershed moment, and when things get big, things get watered out. It happens with every single art movement, form, whatever, revolution. And I'm like, what's the difference with this one? And I think what it is that the transference of financial energy is like the decentralization concept with Bitcoin itself, the network. That's the real power. And it was shown from the very beginning because all of us are friends from all over the globe. So we were able to do all these things that, we didn't have to go through those centralized gateways and like we had to go to this show and talk to this person or talk to that person. A lot of us are just nobodies, and so that hasn't changed really. So I think a lot of people that are coming into the space, if they just take a look back a little bit and really see like how this stuff started, not only is it good just to know the history, but it's also good for them as far as like financial empowerment and to like start your own movement and all that. And no matter what location, so, but yeah, just wanted to just kind of throw that in there.
I just want to piggyback off of Robness real quick and address the elephant in the room, just because it's my nature to do so. The outrage in regards to the Amy Castor article that was published on ArtNet. The reason this is significant is because people like myself, who are crypto artists, and I've been involved for almost 6 years now in crypto, and I've been hustling for all that time to earn money from my creative abilities, which had been a source of pain in my entire life as a creator. To then dismiss what I'm doing as a person who has been trying to solve this problem of monetization to feed my family, for example. I'm a single mother, and I want to throw that out there that Amy, that your article attacked me directly, and and a lot of other creators who have been searching for a tool, because NFT technology is a tool that allows digital artists like myself to earn money so that I can pay for things like food. And so the fact that ArtNet published this article that was inaccurate by just throwing me and a lot of my friends who I know and lumping us together with the WAGMI empire, which she is focused on completely. She is ignoring intelligence, integrity, and reality. And this is what I just need to get off my chest. Because I think if I was to have a cage match with Amy, I would win. And that's
You
what
would
I
win
want to
on a
say.
cage match with anyone.
Well, I'm
You
just
know,
saying that it's ridiculous that
yeah.
the reason it ignited so much anger in the NFT community is because we we rely on this technology for our very existence, because it
Yeah.
is the tool that has allowed us to earn money from our artwork.
You
And
know,
this is the thing that is totally glossed over in the mainstream media.
No,
Stories
Kenny
like
Schachter
myself.
was talking about it at Zurich. There was a conference that was tied to the exhibition, and he was talking about this article. But he felt the same way that you do, as anyone should. But I think that there, that happened kind of at the beginning, and I think it's still happening. That, in my view, when people do not quite understand maybe the terms, and like the technology is complicated, and the new things make people nervous. When you talk about like automatic royalties for artists, well, maybe the legacy art world gets a little bit nervous for whatever reasons, for a host of reasons. And when like any kind of like new development that is not incredibly easy to understand and to have mass adoption immediately, I'm not at all justifying her. I think it's absurd and appalling, but has this kind of reaction, right? It's like, I don't understand it, I don't get it, therefore it's terrible. And
Well, I mean,
so
to
that's
hate
why.
crypto, I think the root of it is that there's a hatred for all crypto, and there's of course scammers, and there's tons of problems because we're dealing with humans, right? And I'm not saying that people shouldn't speak the truth, even if it's negative, and I disagree with them. I think that everyone should have a voice and be honest. But, it is kind of weird that I don't know if I was a publisher of ArtNet, if I would have that as I would. I don't know. I don't think there was a lot of real facts in there.
No,
And
right.
that's
It
what
was
I would
just
have
like
issue
this
with.
opinionated screed, but
It's an
also,
opinion. Yeah.
yeah, but also
Yeah.
one thing that, and it's true that what you mentioned is like people get, if you don't know, because it's complicated to understand. And for instance, in media, will digest stories that are easy for people. They will
Right.
chew
Like,
them for you.
for
And
example, your
but
your
let me just
story your
let me just
story is
finish.
not in the mainstream media.
Correct.
That's what my point is, that intelligence and integrity and people are actually doing real shit that impacts a lot of people. Um those stories don't really make the headlines,
Correct. That's
right?
what I was going to say. Like, what makes a headline? A $69 million sale by an artist. That makes a headline because it's simple to digest. Everybody understands that story immediately. And we can't really do anything about the media, but it's true that what also makes a headline, for instance, NFTs are destroying the world single-handedly. They are the source of all the ecological disasters of the world, which is completely not true or misguided or exaggerated. But those stories are easier to tell than, how do you explain all these, like what Robnes was saying, all these diversity of experiences that you can have by minting, by collecting, by being part of a DAO, by understanding how like a decentralized wallet works. All of that stuff is harder to understand. But that's why I say that people who have the interest, people who come from the art world, for whatever reasons, whether like there's great sales or whether there's no, they don't have a choice but to pay attention, to bring what we're doing to the rest of mankind, or to the art world, and people in general, is really great, because I think at a certain point this technology will start seeping into everything, and it will become much more commonplace, and everybody, it won't take like established artists just to jump into bandwagon because they see the dollar signs, but some of them may actually have something really great to contribute, instead of just jumping in while somebody else already proved that it's not that risky. What
Yeah.
is interesting is the
Yeah,
people
it's
who
just
took
gonna
the
be
risks,
like talking about the internet is how I see it, and that's why it was just kind of funny to me. I mean,
Well, Stella,
Robness,
too,
you
I
thought
will
it
say,
was kind of funny too, like, oh, this is just like that the satirical piece I did of Artnet is like, this is a lot like that internet talk, and now what is that .com? It's very similar, right?
well,
It's
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, okay. So
I
I
think
will say
that's
one
a
thing real quick. And from 2014 and on, the amount of negative Bitcoin articles, they actually have a website. It's called Bitcoin Obituaries, and you just look at that, and they literally kept every article that was ever written saying it was going to die, I was going to die, I was going to die, and it just became a running joke now. So it's just commonplace that that happens. I mean, it sucks. I wish that I don't know. It's just the way things are, unfortunately. But this technology is so powerful that I think it just totally will move beyond that anyways.
I think this is such a great conversation we have today. I mean, Stella, I think it's so precious that you could share your feeling with us today. I kind of feel like we probably need to do another space to focus on this topic specifically, and that would be really important. I'm not speaking on behalf of ArtNet because, as you know, like we have different department, and since I'm working under our NFT team, so I'm totally for the NFT and the technology. And it's just really regrettable that there's this article that is really, like, from my perspective, I think Amy, I think she has written some article that are more fact based, but this one feels really hostile towards the NFT community. So I think what is really it in a way it also shows that there's so much more that needs to be done. Like there's just this natural hostility from a lot of people. Like I can just share from my personal experience. Like if I trying to do any NFT initiative on our platform, even if it's just a Twitter space, or even it's just we mentioned the word metaverse or Web3, we get a lot of backlash just from our regular subscribers or reader. So there's just like so many misunderstanding. And like I honestly don't understand like why people needs to be, so negative about something like they don't know yet, but obviously a lot of people do. So I think in a way, it's just means that there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And in a way, like how can we also reach more people and make the whole thing more accessible? Like there are so many clear benefits of the technology and the community that all comes with that. I think a lot of creators, they just don't have the privilege to truly understand yet. And to echo to Nina's point before, which is something I also thought was super interesting, is that like even for people who were in the digital art space for many decades, it's actually still so separate from the whole crypto art community, and we actually see a lot of resistance from artists actually using technology to create art and embrace technology to create art. And they have been successful working with galleries, or for whatever reason they don't want to have anything to do with NFT. Um, so this is something that's why we are here. We wanted to do more. I think it's great that we have this platform, and we wanted to continue to make this a platform. So we can give this to the community and have people come to really bring the insights from within the community to people.
Now that is
Yeah,
great.
and
Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh yeah, and it's kind of funny because I've the last couple of years just watching everything kind of play out. I mean, half the time it's kind of weird. There's some things that happen you're kind of like you kind of smirk at, and then like but for the most part, I kind of just enjoy a lot of it, even the mania. It's just it's kind of wild. But what I realize is like there's this movie that I compare this whole situation to. I don't know if you guys ever seen The Artist, right? It's about the silent movie, like the talkies, the rise of the talkies and stuff. And I think what's kind of happening is this technology has like developed its own lingo, its own culture worldwide, and the barrier to like enter is very like shoot people are throwing GMs at people like what is that? It's like there's a whole different like language and everything. And I think what's happening is like there's a mistranslation. I think there is a barrier for people to break through. And I think maybe because of that, they maybe feel like threatened or something by that. I don't know. I'm kind of looking from the other side because it is kind of a big rabbit hole. But I do see that that's a big kind of change with this. And NFTs, like what is that even? I mean, it's actually just a tool to like timestamp something. So, I mean, that's going to be that barrier is going to be broken the next couple of years as well. Music, film, you name it, even poetry right now. So yeah, I just want to kind of throw that in there too.
I also ask to speak on Bear again, just to touch on stand levels. Like I hear your pain, and I know that you take it always with a lot of humor. But I think I think maybe what is more startling for us is that there are people like I probably would agree with most of the hate of NFT. I myself hate everything that is going on. I'm an anti-market person. I'm call myself a market abolitionist, and yet it seems like people don't see the effort that everyone else is doing, which is what Stella Bell is pointing at. Like there are people who can be as critical about everything that is happening than anybody else, but we're actually doing shit to change it. And the fact that they talk about all the criticism, but they don't highlight the efforts to actually, spread the word of the projects that are doing really interesting things to change the status quo is what is astounding for me. And so, going back to the historic NFT fest, what we're doing is you don't fight those things. There is a whole business behind why you have headlines like that. But what you can do is to take back the narrative, to create the content, to do the research, to put it out there so that people who want to investigate and want to see these other sides can have access to it. And I think a lot of that it's been done by the people who are here in this space, and it's an important work, and it's important to recognize it.
Yeah, good point. I guess I might be the biggest NFT hater in existence because
I've
my satirical project is CryptoStell is actually making fun of everything that's going on that I don't like, and so it is kind of ironic that I agree with some of Amy's judgment. It's just that she's throwing all the technology in the bathwater without recognizing people like Beatrice and Judy and like Robness and everyone that's helped with artist sovereignty. I feel like that's a big theme. Like Robness has helped me a couple times with some horrible collectors. Some really asshole collector who, discriminated against me based on my gender. I went to Robness because I knew that he just doesn't take shit from any collectors. And so artist sovereignty could be an entire discussion, dissolving the barriers between patrons, collectors, and artists. That's
I
like
think so.
really
So
something cool.
I think you're going to write an article for ArtNet right now. Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah,
You should. That's
I
for
think
sure.
so. I think that I'm even okay if someone wanted to copy paste my article. Like just get some quality information out there. Actually, all you need to do is look at my project, Stellas, because it is a book too. All the links and everything that has been going on, it's all there. I mean, not everything, but a lot of stuff. It's a research tool for the future. As Nikola Tesla said, um, the present is theirs, but the future is mine. And that's how I'm building a lot of the things I'm doing, because I don't relate to a lot of this materialism and this co-opting of culture. And, the Beeple comment was pretty grotesque. Like, let's not forget that we're being um, just, I guess, our voices are not being heard by the mainstream. And I believe it's time to change that, because the people that are being listened to are not the noblest people. That's where I'm going to end that.
If I can just bounce back on what you said, Stella Bell, I think there's we were all getting excited, I think, after like 2021 and the burst and speculation and everything, and then kind of like seeing some sort of like maturation. Okay, fine, the bear market, but like maturation and segmentation of like, there's no such thing as like hating NFTs right now. Is like you were saying, I hate websites. That means literally nothing. And so I think we were really, I mean, I know I was very disappointed in this article, because it is a lump sum, like just putting everything, like a format and all the use cases together. And maybe it's fine. Maybe that's, mainstream as always, mainstream media and just mainstream, you know, like, yeah, like has always focused on the big headlines, the $69 million, whatever. And but we can change that at our level and recapture the narrative. And Bea, you have a very interesting take on that, like where yes, it's easier to replicate what has been done before, and when we look at like a lot of the marketplace and the market aspect of NFTs, it's exactly like what it was before. And it's a responsibility that we have here to push the experimentation and alternative models forward, because we know, like intrinsically, we all know that like nobody else is gonna do it. I mean, this is like where traditional models and it is easier to keep something that works somehow, for some people, than like really look deep at like how you can make things different. And like, I mean, I think this is what we're excited about data and all here today, I think.
To me, one of the things that was very clear, we were invited in 2018 to a panel at Christie's. They did the first art and tech like summit, and it was in London. And it was like a room full of art professionals, which means like appraisers and insurers. I'm not even talking so much about curators or even artists, but like the people who are in the business of art. And I think, there were also museum people. And at the time, they were completely, I mean, if you think that there's skepticism now, you should have seen it then. It was like ridiculous. But I remember in the panel, I said, what is interesting to me is what I see happening in front of my eyes with the data artists, with all of you guys, like Stella Bell, Robness, all these artists that we started meeting, the people who were starting to, to be in super rare, is that this technology, it's like opens up a new door. It's almost like the art world, the traditional art world, is like a sliver through which very, very few people can come in. Very few people. It's like incredibly gate kept. Yeah, it's very few people who can get to a gallery, who can, let alone have a show in a museum, who can have access both as collectors and as artists. And what this does is actually open that sliver and let a bunch of new people in. Whether you like it, the art, whether you don't like the art, you can collect art from in your pajamas, from your computer in 2 seconds. You can, there are artists like Stella Bell, and I don't know how many that I know personally, who have been able to sustain themselves by using this technology. And all of a sudden, you have a world of art that is broader, more diverse, more exciting. We're not talking about whether you think the art is the greatest thing that ever happened or not, but but it's, it just, to me, it tells me that the world is full of artists, and that there are far more artists in the world than the world knows. And I think our almost part of our mission is to make the world understand that artists are not like three people, bohemians painting on a canvas and starving. There's millions of artists, and many of them are extraordinarily talented. And the fact that they are not commanding whatever sales, or they're not at the most famous gallery, has nothing to do with their talent or their hard work. This is what this technology does, I think, for me. It just opens up everything. So I think that eventually we're going to stop being a niche, and we cannot really fight the relentless machinery and noise of the market. That is something that we're always going to have to be fighting against, even if it's helpful, as Nina says, sometimes, or not. But our voices cannot compete with that. But what we can do is just keep doing what we're doing, and keep bringing people in, and keep having these allies and collaborators that are curious enough to see the possibilities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree less, Judy. And I mean, especially looking at the art world today, that's so dominated, even the traditional art world, maybe even more by the art market. I mean, let's say, for example, if you go to Art Basel, it's a proper representation of things that sell well and artists that sell well, and it's mostly it's paintings or things that you can hang on the wall that are flat and have some surface texture, and it's not a proper representation of what the art world has to offer. And somehow, looking at this new world, and also the variety and the richness of this new world that now becomes visible through blockchain and NFT, I wouldn't be so concerned with the traditional art world. I would just continue doing what you guys are doing, and somehow things will fall into places. And yeah, it's not really a world to wish for somehow the way it is at the moment, the traditional art world, if you're an artist.
In fact, that's what we were trying to get away from, actually. And I think you said I couldn't agree less, but I think you meant I couldn't agree more. but yeah, I mean, it's true. Like when we started, and by we I mean like everybody at the time that was exploring creating platforms and onboarding artists and all of that, it looked like it was going to be an answer to the way things, the status quo. But then what happened was that many of the platforms, being marketplaces, actually followed market rules, and therefore basically replicated on steroids what, in a way, what happens in the traditional art market. In some ways, with, it's not only the gatekeeping, but also like the star system and all of those things. And what, at least at Dada, we have always tried to do is really use this technology as a real and radical alternative, so that we don't use it to do what has already been done, but we use it to create a new economic model for artists, to truly do a collaborative model, where people are not competing against each other and stuff like that. So I mean, I think that, like, in the internet, blockchain is also like a it's a range of things, and you can have from the most radical, super libertarian, super hyper capitalist, capital anarchist, whatever, to like the other end of the spectrum, and everything in between. And we're just gonna like have to live with this. But I think that the more that we, as the historic festival wants to do, the more we put out or present the information, the history, the culture, the relationships, the memories of the people who created it and the projects they created. I think we're setting this up so that at least there's a resource that people can see, where did this come from, and it's not just, people think that Bored Apes were the first NFTs that ever happened. This is the kind of thing that I think we collectively have to say, no, you have to understand that there's people who were creating like crazy, amazing tokens back in 20, or not tokens, but like, amazing experiments with blockchain back from 2011, 2014.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, of course, I wanted to say I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, thank you so much, Judy and Nina. I also I couldn't agree more. And I think that's very beautifully said and concluded our question of where we are right now. And it seems like we are still so early that we are facing this kind of questions all the time. Like Fanny mentioned, like right now we wouldn't see someone said, "Oh, internet is dead, website is dead," and this kind of argument just doesn't exist anymore. But if you go back to 1990, there are a bunch of articles writers, opinion authors, they question the MIT professor on their prediction. People can bring a computer to the beach. They thought it's entirely impossible, and it's just crazy to have a thought like this. So we're still very early, and I think this is a big responsibility for education. Thank you all so much for joining the space today. I thought it's really insightful, and it's so great to have people who've been here in the early days to join us today. And I hope we can have more conversations like this. So please stay tuned. And we will announce more spaces and conversations soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much for
Thank you.
hosting
Thank you
us,
so much
Jiayin
for inviting
and
all of
ArtNet.
us. Thank you.
Thank you.